the role of the finance and the potentials in order to achieve the SDGs. From the innovative finance and sustainable investment, we have the special envoy for UN Secretary General, Mr. Hiromichi Mizuno, who present. And he will present in video message. Good afternoon. I am the special envoy for UN Secretary General for the innovative finance and sustainable investment. My name is Hiromichi Mizuno. And for the Sustainable Finance Week event organized by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, I'd like to express my appreciation for being able to make my speech here. As the Governor Koike have just mentioned, in Tokyo Metropolitan Government, in sustainable finance, Tokyo Metropolitan Government is making a very active role in that, and also many participation from Japan that I'd like to express my sincere respect, and also a lot of expectation for that as well. For the UN, in 2021, Sustainable Development Goals, that is the first year of the last 10 years, for the climate change, many countries have experienced the tremendous disasters, natural disasters. So this year, we do have to make a big turnaround to start this year's activity. Last year, in the second half of last year, in Japan, Prime Minister Suga have the carbon neutral declaration, and also from other countries, the carbon neutral statement has been made, especially for the for SDGs, for the climate change in 2021 is a very special year for the SDGs as well in regards to the climate change. In April, the President Biden in the summit, climate summit, and also G7 and G20, as well as the next month in Glasgow, we will have COP26. In that, all these events in the sustainable finance is the most important topic that the sustainable finance have been discussed. So with this leadership in these meetings, for regulations and various policies are obviously discussed in those conferences, but also private financial institutions for the sustainable finance, private sector finance can be used to solve these issues, and that we can accelerate the changes, and also among the private sectors, having the accountability and with a sense of responsibility to support the investment. That is one of the important themes today. In Japan, ESG have been addressed and main topic of the main financial institutions' activities, and ESG is always now discussed with investors. So under such circumstance, as I mentioned earlier, this year, this international leadership discussion table, sustainable finance, how can we accelerate sustainable finance is the biggest topic today. And in different countries, in each different market, sustainable finance or green finance, the investment status in each country is paying a lot of attention and monitoring that. In Japan, in GPIF, have also making initiatives on this ESG is one of the investment portfolio, one of the consideration for the investment that's been accelerated in the recent years. In the corporate governance and code change in that, to clarify that, so that the ESG disclosure is now becoming necessary, and that has been described and written. And also today, for there will be speakers from TSE. In TSE, Tokyo Stock Exchange, also various activities are taken, initiatives are made for the sustainable finance and green finance environment has now been arranged. But on the other hand, in the green bond market, globally speaking, but the Japanese expansion in this area is not being always the same pace to expand. In 2021, the green bond issue achieved 120 trillion yen of the green bond, and also sustainable finance bond can be included in 150 trillion yen, and then one 100 trillion yen. So in Tokyo market, to make the green finance and sustainable finance center, if you want to make that financial center in Tokyo, we do need a more explosive growth in this regard. In a green bond is already also initiated by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, and they also plan to issue those bonds this year as well. In case of Japan, the 70% of the debt market is the JGB and the treasury bond. So the green bond issuance is for the greening of the market is something that we do have to do that. And for those green bond market, for the further development of the green bond market, and Tokyo's metropolitan governments, and also TSE, and also financial agency, and also Bank of Japan are also participating in today's meeting. So also those regulators' perspective is also very important. To make the rules for that is very essential. And for the G20 and COP26 meetings, all the global rules will be discussed. So that I'm expecting a lot for the leadership by Tokyo Metropolitan Government. And also in this conference, in Tokyo, TCFD summit had been held in Tokyo. TCFD, that is the climate change disclosure, that is the worldwide global standard framework. And in Japan, we have had the largest participation and to lead this discussion in TCFD. Ms. Mary Shapiro, and also from Mr. Makani from the Bank of England, and also the Michael. Those are the special envoy are making these activities together with them. In the TCFD preparation, they say that Japan's role has been quite significant in this regard. So for this future climate finance and sustainable finance area, that the disclosure should be further pursued and to be enhanced. And also, the corporate governance code have described for the listed company, they have to have the ESG disclosure and also for sustainable disclosure. This should become more generalized and to be used as a market rule so that the Tokyo market or the equal to the Asian finance, green finance and so on, and that is going to become a very important role to be played by Tokyo market. Personally speaking, after the Paris Agreement, the President Macron in France, in the French bond, became greener, and green finance, Paris ESG finance has been started, and also in Europe, next to London, they have gained the second market positions, but also green finance basis that has been developed as such. In the UK and also in London, finally, the green treasury, green national bond has been finally issued, so that in Europe, now the green finance market activation has been done in Europe as well. So that for Japan, as well as especially in Tokyo, making these type of rules so that the participants making the risk disclosure and also investors to have the strong will to invest, and so that the global money can be collected, so that annually speaking, about 2 trillion yen or 3 trillion yen for these funding would not be even sufficient. In the UN calculations, the energy sector, just the 150 trillion yen to the 250 trillion yen will be needed for that. How do we collect all those private sector's money for that? In collecting private sector money, greenwashing to be avoided, and also as an investment also need to be profitable as well. And this type of the deployment is very important. So not just in Tokyo, but also for all the global financial cities and urban area that we've been discussing, and so that the Tokyo Finance Sustainable Week Finance, so that the Japanese people would further engage with discussion with the government, but also from the private sectors need to make more voices, raise their voices, so that the necessary environmental arrangement need to be done. And also government, as well as in Tokyo, that one can do that in a proactive way to make some rules which could be the standard for the globally speaking, so that the Japanese money fund and green finance opportunities would be shifting, not just shifting from Japan to overseas, but also Japan and Japanese business and those funding that they obtained in that that they can make the sustainable business in the world. So that these positive spiral that I'm looking forward to that. Lastly, and today's participants in 2021, that how much sustainable finance that we will proceed from, and also market participants concept, and the daily pricing mechanism, and the actual investment code, and the loan code, and so on. How can that be collected? And that is the 2030s SDGs achievement to be greatly impacted from this. And also, these sustainable finance moves with the competition against among the investors and among all the investors and sustainable business, so that the opportunities and investment framework to be further emitted and transmitted, so that the sustainable business model and sustainable the economic system will be further transferred. And those economic competition, so that Japan shouldn't lose on that battle, and so that TCFD exercise leadership, and that it should be exercised as such.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mizuno.